You are listening to Autistic Stuff for Autistic People, a podcast from the Autistic Peer Support Coaching Collective and Fox and Raven Media. I am Aradia. I am the creatively autistic coach and the podcast producer for Fox and Raven Media.
And I am Cheryl. I'm a peer support coach and body talk practitioner who works with other late identified autistic adults to better understand their needs, challenges, strengths, and unique wiring to live with more grace and compassion.
Welcome back to Autistic Stuff for Autistic People. Today, we're talking about heat and how awful it is, at least for the two of us. I guess some people like the heat and prefer cold, but today we're talking about heat as an antagonist because it's going to be summer. Like it's going to be after summer solstice by the time that this episode comes out. So for everyone in the Northern Hemisphere, it's the hot time. How do we deal with the brightness of the sun, the intensity of the sun, lack of AC, the noise of AC, travel, being outside, transitioning between outside and inside, all the things to do with heat. We're going to try to cover that today because we both have thoughts on how to manage it, how to avoid it, how to mitigate it, how to ride through it. Cheryl, you want to tell us about your relationship with heat?
Yes, I would love to. So, this is a fascinating topic for me because my therapist is also autistic and she loves the heat. Like, she looks forward to it all year. The summer is her favorite season. So, in the wintertime, I'm doing great and she's not, and then it flips. And before I knew I was autistic, I knew I struggled with the heat. I just didn't know why. And I didn't know some of the sensory processing challenges as well as the dysautonomia, where, my nervous system has jobs to do, like regulating temperature and heart rate and breathing, and doesn't always do its job, or at least not the way I would hope and expect. So I remember one of my biggest memories, like back when I was in elementary school, in the summertime, we'd have the fun days, the track and field and the go out and play games and, all day long. And everyone would look forward to this. And, being the masking child that I was, of course, I would put on that face of like, oh yeah, this is gonna be so much fun, we're not gonna have to go to class, we're gonna be outside. I would get home so dysregulated, so overwhelmed, but also like a headache like you would not believe. I would be exhausted. I would need to go into a dark room. I would need to, just literally have no stimulation whatsoever. And it was always so challenging because even as I got older and I traveled and I was traveling overseas, just like I would get nauseous in the heat. I would get stomach distress and nausea and dizziness and just feel like when everyone else was so excited to be outside, like it's such a beautiful day, we got to make the most of it. And I would be like, going outside right now would not be making the most of it. It would be slowly taking away my will to live. Like I love overcast days. I love rain. Give me a good storm. I'm fine. So it always made me feel very different from my peers. Very much like, am I not living a full life because I don't want to go anywhere in the summertime? I want to stay inside. I currently live in an apartment without an air conditioner, so I am sitting next to a fan right now. And I am very choosy about when I go outside. Very choosy about the clothes that I wear. Skirts in the summer, very flowy. Yeah, I want to hear your thoughts, and then, maybe we'll talk a little bit more about the struggles as well as the reasons behind it and, perhaps some of the strategies that we've come up with over the years. But I just think the biggest thing is once I found out I was autistic and I started reading about other autistic people, especially people perhaps with, nervous system challenges, whether that be POTS or MCAS or other things, I started finding my people. I was like, oh wow, there's other people who like their bodies can't regulate heat. I'm not broken, which is kind of a fun realization at 44.
Yeah, my relationship with heat, I think I think of myself as a hot person even more than I think of myself as an angry person in terms of those like little monikers that I picked up in childhood, being like, oh, this is how people see me. This is how I relate to people. Overheated was definitely the first one. My mom even will tell stories about how, as an infant, she'd have, old ladies coming up to her on the street telling her that she's got to make sure that my head's covered, otherwise I'm going to be cold. And she had to be like, no, no, this baby does not need more insulation. She is hot enough. And that has always been me. I run hot. I mean, I was in school and the teachers were like, you got to put on a coat. You got to put on a coat. My parents had to be like, look, this child is already overheating. She doesn't want to put on a coat. Like, that's just not what's happening. It's always been a problem for me. And it's been a problem for my mom too, but not my dad. My dad and my paternal grandmother are like the kind of people that are wearing their long johns in July. They're always cold. Me and my mom, absolutely raging infernos of Scandinavian. We will survive the winter, right? I am fine with clouds. I am fine with the cold. I am fine with rain. Love living in the Pacific Northwest. So the sun, heat has always been a big struggle for me. And when I was going through therapy a couple years ago and beginning my autism journey, one of the things that I got to learn to recognize was the fact that I have chronic childhood post-traumatic stress disorder from being overheated chronically every single summer, specifically at night. The house that I lived in didn't have AC. It did not have an attic fan, and my window was upstairs southwest corner. So just the entirety of sunset, the entirety of the afternoon, just blazing into my room. And the whole house. The house was kind of old, but there was no attic fan. And so the house would be in the 80s Fahrenheit into the night. And I would just be laying there in what now in hindsight I can recognize as like borderline heat stroke,
Mm.
especially prepubescent when like the sweating mechanism hasn't really like kicked on properly. Like I was so happy in puberty when my body finally started to sweat properly because suddenly I didn't feel like I was roasting inside my own skin with no release. Suddenly there is a release. But when I was a little kid before puberty, I was just having what now I know is to be borderline heat stroke. And my dad, because he was so cold all the time,
Mm.
just didn't resonate, didn't care, and gave me very half-assed solutions like, well, here, have a fan. The fan is blowing hot air on me.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you can go downstairs. Okay, well, the house has been baking all day, so even downstairs isn't actually cool, right? And by the time that it was cool, I was so wound up in my head about how overheated I was so anxious, there was no way my body temperature was going down, and just nobody cared, and this was my reality every night of the summer for, like,
Mm.
10 straight years.
Hmm.
So, eventually in therapy, I'm like, "No, my life was fine and perfect, and everyone cared about me." And, oh, yeah, I did spend every single night of every single summer for, like, 10 straight years just absolutely miserable and wanting to die and thinking I might die because I'm literally overheating so much.
Hmm.
That might have been bad for my mental health,
A little
and
bit.
it has made me really prone to anger that I don't know where it's coming from, right? Being an overheated child led to being an angry child because I was told, "No, you're not hot, you're fine." But also, why are you so angry? Why are you lashing out? Why do you have
Hmm.
no tolerance for any other discomfort? It's because 'cause I'm overheating. And this is without even getting into the question of sunburn, which I
Oh,
also
oh,
deal with a lot.
yes.
Whole other side of things. We're just talking about literal thermal heat.
Yeah.
Yeah, my parents' cars never had air conditioners in the summer. I was just expected to tolerate the baking inside hotness of a car when we were getting back into it.
Yes.
Yeah, just running away from the heat is one of the, like, most constant themes of my life. Whenever I'm cold, I relish it. I savor it. I try to soak that feeling up and burn it into my brain or freeze it into my brain.
Yeah.
My husband is someone who is very prone to cold and is happy to be overheated. If he's a little hot,
Mhm.
he's happy. If I'm a little cold, he's looking at me like I'm crazy. He's like,
Mhm.
"What do you mean?" I'm like, "No, I want to be cold. I actively want to be the cold uncomfortable right now just to balance the freaking books."
Yeah. Store it till the next season.
So that's my history with heat.
No, I'm sorry that happened to you because that just sounds so awful. And I've been there, that feeling of like I want to crawl out of my body because I can't breathe. I can't handle the sensations, the feelings of being too hot. Some of the things you said though are bringing some memories back. So When I was, oh, I don't know, maybe between 8 and 10, my parents had this old car. I just remember it was like this yellow mustard color, and then eventually we painted it blue, but whatever. But inside it was like this fake leather
Oh,
and no
ooh,
air
yeah.
conditioning. And I remember the feeling on the backs of my legs.
Yep.
And I don't know if that's why I no longer wear shorts. Like throughout my entire adulthood, I don't wear shorts. I hate the feel of shorts, and I also hate the feel of capris. So I would, even playing beach volleyball, I'd be wearing pants, which was awful, but I had to balance it, the heat with the feeling of like the material in the wrong spot. Like I could never find shorts that fit in the right spot. So now it's just like give me my maxi skirts that are just flowing. So that was a memory. Thank you for that. And I loved going up. Like I lived in the Arctic for a year, and I loved it. So my mom would always say, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe like I don't understand how you handled it. Like the blizzards and the sub-zero, like -50." And I'm like, give me that any day over our city's humidity. Like I nope, it's fine. It's fine. And it's funny because my mom even has a cat that loves the heat. This cat will lay out in the summertime, like basking in it, and I'll just be like going out for, 4 minutes and I'm going like hyperventilating. And the number of times though, like I'll walk into a room, maybe it's a class, maybe it's an employment situation, but I'll be so hot. And then I'll be like looking around and asking, friends or colleagues, like, are you hot? Is it me? Is it hot in here? And like the number of times where they're like, no, like we're fine. And I'm going, oh, it's me. It's me. Okay. And it's like, if you don't experience the heat this way, it's hard to put into words. It's not just like I'm hot and I can go, get an ice cube and put it on the back of my neck. Like, it's nice, but it doesn't affect like the internal heat. It's like I'm getting hot, almost like a nuclear reactor, like from the inside. And I can't,
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't convey that to people. Like, I can't move, I can't think, I can't breathe. I can't think about anything else except that, right? It's like you have to pee really, really, really bad. It's all you can think about because you're about to, you know, miss your window. And I think the other thing that you mentioned that I think really bears a bit of a deep dive here is the reactions of other people in our childhood, well meaning, but the effect of not being believed or not taken seriously or minimized. It's nice out, it's summertime, go out and play. Or, it's not that bad, right? Or just go get some water. Like whatever, whatever. Again, very well meaning. We both had loving parents. That's not the issue. It's the I know what I'm feeling. I know what I need. I know that I'm in distress. I know that I am nearing a meltdown, even though I didn't have the words for that at the time. I knew that my body needed something that I could not even put into words. And when you get told enough times that that's not valid, it does a number on your ability to trust your own body signals and even just my tendency to override my body. Like the number of times I will go out with people, we will go do outdoor activities, and I'll come back and need a tremendous amount of time to recover after being in the heat, right? Because I need to make my summer count or whatever it might be. But that tendency to just like override it completely, all my body signals, like that didn't start from nowhere. It wasn't created in a vacuum.
Yeah, there's this sense that you're supposed to power through up to a certain point, and yeah, my husband is much better at noticing when I'm overheated than I am, right? We'll be going along and he'll be like, "You're too hot. Let's get you into some shade." I'm like, "I'm fine." And he's like, I don't think so."
I'm ready to remove your head with my words, but yes, I'm fine.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So, yeah, it's definitely been a practice for me to learn, "Oh, my tolerance is that low." And I feel like this is maybe a broader topic, but, like, within a lot of autistic spaces that we're in, people talk about, like, skill regression or
Mhm.
getting more autistic as they get into embracing their diagnosis, and I feel like for me with heat tolerance, that's been one of those things where my heat tolerance hasn't changed.
No.
My ability to notice when I'm exceeding my heat tolerance is what's changed. And so now I feel like I'm being more of a baby and I feel like I'm being more sensitive, but it's just because I'm lowering the threshold at which I start to take evasive action.
Mm,
That's actually what's happening. My tolerance hasn't changed. It's my willingness to deal with it that's changed. And I feel like, to the people around me, I'm getting more sensitive and harder to be around and harder to deal with. And that's all in my head. My husband has reassured me. He's very comfortable with me knowing when I'm overheated. But I know skill regression is real, but sometimes it's more like sensory discovery.
that's really interesting, especially because a lot of people do think that sensory experiences and tolerances are a skill, when in fact, no amount of exposure to a thing that's causing me sensory overwhelm is going to make it better, right? I struggle with grocery stores, I struggle with fluorescent lighting, I struggle with crowds, I struggle with loud noises. You can put me in a loud space every day for the rest of my life, and we're not going to suddenly start to say, oh, that's so much easier now. Thank you for exposing me to that. It's not a skill that you can build, at least not in my experience. It's not like, oh, okay, I'm lifting weights. And so, right now I'm lifting this amount of weight. And now if I keep practicing, I'll be able to get stronger and I will lift those heavier weights. For me, sensory experiences, especially the heat, does not get better over time with greater exposure. It, like you said, it helps me to understand myself more. It perhaps makes me catch the signals a little bit quicker, which is great. But for me, this concept of, expanding your distress tolerance, I mean, this could be a different episode entirely, but I find that concept isn't always healthy for people who have been in distress their whole lives. Tolerance is different than distress tolerance to me, right? Yes, I need to be able to maybe, tolerate different things and, try different things, expand my comfort zone. But to get used to distress and pain and harm, I'm not sure that that's the best option for me moving forward. And I can only speak for myself, but I'm no longer interested in suffering through my life because somebody else thinks that I should go out and have a fun, hot summer day.
Well, and the cool thing about this, the positive side of learning to expand your tolerance is not expanding the tolerance for the discomfort, but so, back to me getting better at knowing when I'm getting overheated means that I can take evasive action sooner, means that I don't end up overshooting my capacity. It used to be when I was younger, didn't know how to deal with this stuff, and I would just power through until I hit, the burnout of the day or the meltdown of the day. I wouldn't really be able to recover until the next day, right? Like it wasn't like I'm done for the day. Now, if I start to get overheated and I recognize those signs and I go into the shade, drink some ice water, whatever it is I'm going to do to cool down, and I actually, without judgment and without anxiety, go and do the things I need to do and wait until I can actually feel my internal temperature lower, actually only takes me like 15 or 20 minutes and then I'm ready to rejoin whatever activity it was that I needed to tap out of. Like this was a wild discovery for me last summer that because I've gotten better at taking care of myself now, I can recover in a reasonable amount of time. I get a little overheated. I'm like, oh, I gotta go take care of that. 15 minutes later, I'm like, I'm not overheated anymore. My internal temperature's down. I feel chill. I'm not emotionally upset about it. I'm ready to, you know, get a wet towel around my neck and go back outside and do whatever the thing is. And like it has allowed me to expand my window of tolerance just because I'm actually taking care of myself within sustainable limits for myself. So yeah, I'm in and out of the sun all across the day. I'm not going to be in the sun for 4 straight hours, but I will be around you in the sun for 4 straight hours as I dip in and out of where I need to be around your sunny activity. There's there's a way that respecting yourself turns into having more capacity, shockingly.
I love that. I love that because you haven't depleted yourself.
Exactly.
So you're able to, yeah, maybe tolerate is just not the right word in my brain, but I love your an example. I love that analogy of getting to understand yourself and your signals and not overriding them allows you to have more capacity, more experiences.
Right. I'm powering through the shame of having limits rather than powering through overriding my limits, right? I've decided that shame is an easier thing to get rid of than BTUs.
I love that. I love that. I love that. I'm actually writing that down with a big star. Powering through the shame of having limits. And it's interesting because that happened recently. I had gone home for one of my niece's birthday parties, and it was like an outdoor part of it was outdoors, like a splash pad and like playground type of thing. And then we were gonna go inside after for food, and it was hot. It was really hot, and it's funny because I was looking around and I was kind of looking at different siblings and nieces and nephews, like which ones are like me and which ones aren't. But it was really interesting because normally I just kind of suck it up, buttercup, maybe try to find some shade, but I got probably longer than I would have liked, but quicker than usual. I just said I need to go inside. Like I love you all, but I'm gonna need to go and find a place that is out of the sun and maybe has some AC. And I did that. And it sounds so small, it sounds so simple, but I think you hit it right so clearly, like the shame part, the shame of, maybe not being able to do what everyone else can do, the shame of feeling different, from such a young age, the shame of not being able to meet expectations, even your own, right? Like, oh, it's summertime, right? Like, oh my goodness, there's so many activities. Right? We could go on the lake, we could go kayaking, we could go for hikes, and you're like, but I can't breathe or move. Like, so yeah, it's a shame. I don't think I ever put that together quite like that. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And, it gives other people permission too, right? Like I was at an event recently where the whole event has to happen in the blazing sun because that's the lawn where the event 25 years ago happened. So that's the lawn where we're having the memorial now. There was multiple people who were finding umbrellas and pop-up tents and just kind of insisting that like while we wait for people to get here through the heavy traffic, some of us need shade. Some of us are going to need shade. And I ended up like going and like hiding like in the shade of a beautiful, piece of landscaping shrubbery. Just like, I'm going to sit over here until the event actually starts. And I'll just do the like shuffling to the front of where my seat is once we actually start. Cause like you told me that we were going to start 15 minutes ago and I'm not sitting in the blazing sun for 15 minutes. It's simply not happening. I will be going and sitting under this shrubbery. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Having those boundaries because you know your own limits and you have pushed through that shame, you are able to perhaps set better boundaries or speak up for yourself or just take the action and not care what anyone else is thinking about it, right? It's no longer, the suffering Olympics. You're like, how much can I put myself through to prove that I'm a real human? Like, I don't know. It's such a weird thing. Like, I don't know. Maybe because some of us, so much of our lives were spent, living more from our heads and kind of disconnected from the body for a lot of different reasons. And so that kind of that disassociation, it kind of sometimes feels like you're a bit of a robot. But now that we're talking about this, right, and we have to kind of acknowledge, no, like we are humans with physical and sensory and, physiological needs that are severely impacted by the heat, right? Or the sun. Right? For me, like sun is very hard because of like the visual stimulation. Like I just need, ooh, bring it down. Yeah, this is so interesting. And I do want to talk about some of the strategies that maybe you have come up with over the years. But before we do that, I do want to mention something that perhaps a lot of our listeners in their I don't even want to say what age they might be, but perimenopause and menopause, right, has nothing to do with necessarily what season we're in outside. It's the season we are in in our own lives. And I think this needs a mention, a nod, honoring the fact that as autistic people, perimenopause and menopause can be really freaking hard. The changes to our hormone levels, changes, oh my gosh, the effect on sleep, the effect on energy levels, brain fog, but the effect of, like, for me, it is getting worse. Like, my heat intolerance has gotten worse in the last little while. And it's always been bad. So I didn't even think it was possible to get worse, but it is worse, not just outside, but inside. And it's interesting because I've been noticing online that a lot of people are coming to that autism and ADHD understanding of themselves because of perimenopause.
Yeah, I've seen that too.
The experience of it is just bringing up so many questions and so many things that perhaps they didn't have words for before. And, I don't have any magical cure except to say, I see you, I hear you, and it is hard. It is hard.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the things that my mom has talked about being like, "Oh, I'm almost done with menopause. The heat flashes are very nearly over." It was definitely her least favorite part, was like, "Oh, I can literally heat the entire cabin in the winter with the power of a hot flash. Cool."
That's not the neurodivergent superpower that we were hoping for.
Right. Yeah, I haven't gone there yet, but I know it's coming. Not looking forward to it. The more content online I see about, the more I'm like, "Oh boy, loins need to be girded against this."
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's interesting because when we've done other episodes on autism and, menstrual cycle and things like that, and it's just this never-ending whammy of like just sensations and things that are happening in our bodies that we have no control over, that we're just trying to learn to ride the wave, but easier said than done.
Yeah. But riding the wave is much easier when one has surfboards and floaty devices and other tools and techniques for managing said wave.
And knowing that other people are in the water with you, that you're not alone in this. So yeah, let's maybe talk a little bit about what works or what you've tried that either works or that doesn't work.
So for me, understanding how to manage my heat, aside from, respecting my own sensory experiences, once we actually get past that, I find approaching it from a physics and anatomy perspective to be really helpful. Instead of saying, well, what do I like emotionally need? I've been very mechanical about it. So, like, where is heat where's the hot parts of my body like most easily accessed? So, ankles, backs of the knees, elbows, wrists. I've discovered that just like in the summer, one of the funniest things for me in the summer was we'd all be hot, right? So we go down to the river to go swimming. And because I hate transitions, I would get in very, very slowly. And I'd end up, with the water like mid thigh above my knees. And I suddenly realized I wasn't hot anymore because I had taken so long to get into the water that once the water's over the backs of your knees, like big veins run right next to your skin there. So that's chilling your hot blood quite quickly and sending relatively cold blood relatively quickly back up into your core. So I figured that out and I started doing things like putting cold water on my wrist, like running cold water over my wrists and like feeling the cold, like literally moving up my arm and being like, wow, like anatomy. That's really cool. Sometimes when I'm really distressed, I will just swallow ice cubes. I'm literally just like, you can't be overheated if you're risking hypothermia. It's not possible. These are mutually exclusive states. You're not supposed to eat ice, but if I am like completely overheating, like if I can manage to grab an ice cube, crunch it into just a couple big pieces and swallow them, now I have ice in my core. It rapidly drops my core temperature down to something remotely tolerable. I mean, this is also a classic one of putting like ice packs on your groin or putting like a wet cotton kerchief around your neck. It's all about where is the blood that goes into the core of your body very easy to get to. So that's been one way I've really approached it. And then I also approach my house the same way. Where is the heat getting in? Just the other day, I was standing in my laundry room and I realized that my feet were hot because the laundry room door has a southeast facing window in it that's completely open. And there was just this golden puddle of sunshine that felt like lava on my feet. Went over to my sewing room, grabbed a white sheet, grabbed some magnets because the door is magnetic. Half an hour later, I've made a little tube, put some magnets in it, and now there's a white sheet just blocking that because it's not like it's a thick piece of material, right? Because again, I'm thinking physics. Density of like cardboard or something cardboard's dark. The density won't help me, but white fabric helps. White fabric, the color white will bounce off so much of that heat. It's made a difference. Like I'm prioritizing windows coverings that are white that are on the south facing sides of the house. It's the same thing. My house and my body are the same deal. Like how can I get the heat out or keep it from coming in the first place? Like I can't get too emotionally invested in like my favorite cold beverage or like a cold tool. I just have to think about it as a physics problem. How can I optimize the literal heat energy in the system? I don't know, maybe it's kind of dissociative, but it works.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Energy in, energy out, heat in, heat out. Like, where is it coming from? And what can I do in terms of concrete action steps? Like, what action can I take to alleviate that? I like that a lot. For me, it's like you said before, it's acknowledging that heat is an issue, first of all, instead of pretending that it's not a big deal. It's like acknowledging that I don't need to prove myself through months of distress. And then it's for me, it's a bit more about adapting or yeah, adapting my habits maybe and my behaviors. So, in the past, well, maybe I would go for walks multiple times a day, but now I will only go like in the morning before it gets too hot. Or, at the worst part of the day, maybe I do need to lay down in a dark room with a fan next to me. Fabric of clothes, very important. Like I said before, not wearing anything tight. We're wearing, skirts as much as possible. Obviously, if maybe not for a walk, but like just for living in, I live in skirts pretty much for the entire summer. Yeah, I mean, ice, sure, like having ice packs in the freezer and, grabbing them out, putting them on the back of my neck when needed. I'm trying to think of if there's anything else. Like literally during the last heat wave we had, and it was, like I said, no air conditioner. I just had my fan. Like at the hottest part of the day, I literally sat in my chair with the fan next to me. I just was like right, right there, right in my face practically. And that was all that I could do. Like instead of saying like, oh, I got to go do a workout now. Like, no, we're not going to work out right now. Like that's just because I have that program of, well, I'm supposed to have a routine and then there's things I should be doing right now. Letting my environment dictate some of those things. And I'm not saying everything, like we all have responsibilities and we all have things that need to get done. But like even like food choices, right? In a heat wave, I'm not putting the oven on.
No.
I will have, what is it, grilled dinner, right? You've got your
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, totally.
cheese and crackers or whatever you've got. Like it doesn't have to be, but even that goes back to, well, giving yourself permission to do what you need rather than what you've been taught is expected, right? Like you're supposed to have this kind of food for dinner and you're supposed to take care of yourself in this way with this kind of exercise or this kind of routine or these kind of habits. And it's like, well, that's all lovely in a perfect world, but right now it has a real feel of, 97. So no, we're not going to do that.
And I mean, you wanna get into what we're supposed to do as human animals. We're supposed to have seasonal cycles where our activities change according to the time of day, time of month, time of year, time of season. We're not supposed to do the same activities at the same time of day all the year round. Like, that's literally not what we evolved to do, but I digress. But I liked what you said about the time of day, like, picking your activity cycles based on what time of day it is. Like, yeah, I had I had an unfortunate sunburn earlier where I was like, "Oh," or not even sunburn, but just overheating event, which included a bit of sunburn where I was like, "Oh, I gotta not be out there between 10 and 2." Like, I know better. I know what time of year it is. I know what time of day it is. I cannot be doing activities in the full sun unless I want to waste my capacity for the rest of the day. And yeah, sometimes like, I'm gonna wait till the sun goes down before I do the yard work or the workout or the walking across the bright sunlit field. I'm gonna wait till it's shaded by a hill, actually. And yeah, cooking. Oh my God, my husband and I have to do so much negotiation about what can be cooked when. Like, is it too hot of a day for this? I'm still trying to get on him to get us a proper kitchen outside. Just like one burner, maybe a pizza oven, just so that way I can do things like make beans and rice without boiling water in the house. And we're doing a lot of like, oh, let's make a lot of beans and rice on a cooler day and then be able to just eat it cold when we know a heat wave is coming, right? There's all this gaming it out, and like, not to say nothing of opening and closing windows and turning on fans to help the house breathe. Yeah, timing in the summer is a much more delicate dance than in the winter.
Timing is huge, and sometimes like there's competing interests. So the other week, same week as we had the heat wave, I was on my period and I wanted brownies. Like you would not believe I wanted brownies.
Oh.
But the recipe I had, it was like you needed to cook them for like, I don't know, bake for like 45 to 50 minutes. And I was like, nope, nope, nope. So like I went to the store early in the day and I don't know, I bought some Oreos or something because I was just like, I need something, but I could not turn on this oven. Right. So and I mean, I know sometimes when we talk about, strategies, we think that it's going to make our lives easier, but that's not really necessarily what we're saying right now. Some of these actually take more work, more thinking, more planning, but it's because we understand the trade off. If we give everything we've got because of the heat, like we don't have anything left. So if we can make some adjustments based on a very real need, it's literally one of our most basic physiological needs is to be able to regulate temperature. And if we can't, right, we have to make some accommodations for that, right? We've talked about accommodations before on the show, but like the most important accommodations are the ones that we give ourselves and based on honoring our own needs. And I do love what you said to remind everybody about like we are cyclical, right? So this idea that, the same thing has to happen every day in the same way, or, having these strict routines, which might be nice for the autism in us. And I know, yes, I'm simplifying that greatly, but you know what I mean. And, maybe our ADHD wants something else if you're ADHD. But honestly, the cycles, the outside cycles, our inner cycles, I don't care if that, you know, however you want to understand it, but it's not the same. We ebb and flow. We have, different needs at different times. And I think the more we can kind of accept that with a little more grace instead of fighting it, like, I'm sorry, nature is pretty strong and pretty powerful and pretty brilliant. And I don't know why we're fighting with her.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing I want to bring up with respect to strategies and stuff is also having the right tools for the job. So, like I said, I just went to an event recently where we were in the sun all day and I knew that that was going to happen. So, I made sure to bring not just my normal like baseball cap that can shade my eyes, but like my full-blown sun hat. Risked crushing it in my backpack because I was like, I need this hat. It took me years to find the right sun hat because I need a good dense puddle of shade around my head. And I spent years buying these like cute straw hats that would always, between being crushed under my arm and dipped in the creek, they would end up like completely floppy and ridiculous and not giving me a good field of view by the end of the summer. And like, whatever, it's a grass hat. But it was a kind of a bummer. And then this hat that I found, it's woven out of, I think, a plastic material, but it actually was like, this has UV protection rating, blah, 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 whatever, whatever. It makes better shade than those straw hats that I bought for years and years. Like the shade is like, I can feel the sun beating on my skin. I can feel it destroying my cells. I'm just that autistic and that Scandinavian white that like I'm very, very sensitive to the feeling of like sun on my skin. And this hat makes some of the best shade. Like I can actually, if the sun is high in the sky and I'm directly under my hat puddle of shade, I'm quite comfortable actually. It's just a hat, but it took me years to find the right one. Right? I had to not settle for the same annoying, frustrating thing. I had to be like, "No, I need to look for a different hat this summer. I need to continue questing until I find one that actually serves my purposes." And again, I think that's sometimes part of the shame trickery that our brains can pull on us is like, "Well, you have a hat. What do you mean you need a different hat? This
Hmm.
hat's good enough for everyone else." And it's like, "But it's not good enough for
Yeah,
me." It's really worth acknowledging that and not settling for a tool that doesn't do what you need. I think that's also a strategy is just understanding when a tool is or isn't working for you.
I love that. I love that. And I love how you said it was a quest, right? Like, I am going to find this because it's like that old commercial, like, I'm worth it.
Yeah,
Right? It's like a,
totally.
a hair dye commercial or whatever. But, like, that's the kind of thing that I think it's kind of like this underlying theme that ties in every episode that we're doing. Like, yes, on the surface, we're talking about the heat, but what's the underlying theme is like, you're allowed to know yourself, you're allowed to honor yourself, you're allowed to take care of yourself, you're allowed to not kind of settle for something that's not working, you're allowed to keep looking or keep asking as part of the journey.
Yeah, you can keep asking. You can have a solution work to an extent and then realize that actually it's not working enough.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, and you don't want to fall into that, sunk cost fallacy of, well, I've been doing it this way for a long time, so I can't turn back now. You can change course at any time. You might have spent your entire life pushing through summers to make other people happy, and this summer you might say, "No, I'm done. Like, this is no longer sustainable. I do not have the capacity. It's not even worth it for me. I don't want to do it. I'd much rather be, maybe you want to be inside painting. I don't care. Like, whatever it is, you're allowed to say that, right? You're allowed to say that, something isn't working. And I'm not trying to make it sound so simple. Like, yes, we sometimes have to still have hard conversations with partners or family members, friends, colleagues. We sometimes still have to do what needs to get done. I'm not pretending otherwise. But I'm talking about when and where we can show up for ourselves. That's a pretty awesome feeling, even if it's just something small, like saying no to something that you know is going to suck the life out of you and saying yes to something else.
Right. Yeah. And just being curious about your own experience and what works for you.
Curious is good.
If you can do it with the heat, you can do it with other stuff. If you've done it with other stuff, you can do it with heat, right? It's always iterative to take care of yourself. But yeah, body temperature is a really fundamental thing that's worth knowing how to respect and how to manage. And yeah, I really hope that everyone out there dealing with the summer heat has found something empathetic or valuable in this recording, because I'm always down to rant about heat and how to deal with it. It's a lifelong quest, truly. Yeah, so thank you for having this conversation with me, Cheryl. This has been good to have that empathetic connection about, like, yes, I'm not ridiculous for having these problems. This is part of the disability, is having these struggles. This is part of the reality of being autistic, is having to take extra steps just to discover simple things about physical equilibrium in our bodies.
That might be the tagline of my entire last 4 years. No, thank you so much. This was great. I like feeling not quite as alone in some of these challenges.
Thank you for listening to Autistic Stuff for Autistic People. As a reminder, we are all peer support coaches within the Autistic Peer Support Coaching Collective, offering a variety of free and paid intentionally autistic spaces. You can learn more and follow us at our website, autisticcoaches.com. You can best support the podcast by sharing this episode with your friends or joining our Patreon to access ad-free episodes. Thank you for listening to Autistic Stuff for Autistic People. New episodes come out on alternating Mondays. Send us your constructive comments and feedback via email at autisticstuffpodcast@gmail.com. Autistic Stuff for Autistic People is a production of Fox and Raven Media. For more podcasts from Fox and Raven Media, visit our website, foxandravenmedia.com.